5 years ago when I did a torture test on CanCoat. It failed the torture test, which they reached out and I redid it, it failed again. So I'm interested to see if they really did upgrade it, so that's what we're finding out today. Can CanCoat pass the torture test? So on the left side of the panel, I applied it by spraying directly onto the panel. On the right side of the panel, I followed the instructions and applied it to the towel. In my opinion, for the test, it worked better applying it to the panel directly, but I think if you're actually using CanCoat as like in a day-to-day on an actual car, spraying it into the towel like they suggest is going to limit your high spots and also just apply better. You're gonna be able to move through the car a lot better. But if you're one of the ones that liked some of the Meguiar's like Fast Finish and the sprayable aerosol products of yesteryear, I think CanCoat will be a really good fit for you. But I'm just interested to see, since I kind of applied it how I wanted to apply it, I wanted to kind of test both. So, because I'm really interested to see if it really matters how you apply it. I also did leave a high spot on the top left-hand side of the panel. So we'll see that, but. The water beading looks super great. So it does slightly look better on the right-hand side than the left-hand side. I'll be honest, this is one of those things that just drive me absolutely nuts about products sometimes, is like, especially right now we're getting into talking about like the Meguiar spray ceramic coating, how it needs to be applied at a certain temperature. You know, it's gotta be like the most ideal circumstances possible, 70 degrees, light breeze, wearing shorts, you know, swipe behind your back to make it work, to make it cure. And it's just gotten way overly complicated. One thing I like about the CanCoat is it's not really complicated, right? But I digress, we'll talk about that later. Also, got a new blower. Yeah. Got a new blower. So my Flex blower, I get a lot of comments. I think I'm gonna do a video on this one, but I picked up this blower yesterday, so it'll blow your mind, watch. So that side came out pretty good. Let's try the side where I applied it into the towel. I'm gonna give it to the side where they, or I applied it to the towel. So now we will wash it with a pH neutral soap. This is the Turtle Wax Pure Wash. Had a towel in there. Turtle Wax Pure Wash. Again, this is the most ridiculous part of a torture test, but wanted to see if things can actually pass with just a car wash soap, and we'll check on that high spot. The panel gets pretty dusty inside my shop. Packing all those orders for jimbosdetailing.com. Gets a little dusty in here, all that corrugated. So we'll wash it, see how it looks. Nice, even better. So as we saw with the Jimbo's Detailing ceramic spray, because it was dusty, the initial rinse kind of messes with the water beads sometimes. And though the water beads were really strong with CanCoat, after washing it and getting that dust off, it even looks better, so let's blow it off. This thing's legit. Good. So CanCoat can hold up to a car wash. How was that? So let's see if it can hold up to an iron remover. This is the Stoner Car Care. I never really did a video on this. This is their color changing, non-smelly iron remover that stained driveways. Apparently they have redone the formula, but an interesting thing is that iron removers are cool because they turn purple, but really they don't remove everything. So there's actually ways to remove iron contaminants and particles without using an iron remover. So you could actually use, this is acid, I can smell it. So acid will remove iron contaminants and everything else without actually having that purple reaction. But so we'll see how this iron remover does. Let it dwell. I'm expecting CanCoat to make it through this. So we won't rub it in yet, but if it starts getting stout, we'll start rubbing stuff in. So an iron remover is definitely something that you would use on top of CanCoat. And it did good, really good. Not even gonna have to wash it after that because it resisted it really good. So that's exciting to see. Nice beads. Here we go with this, my new favorite toy. I don't know what I'm more excited about, CanCoat doing good in the torture test or my new Ryobi blower. All right, let's do the Turtle Wax Hyper Foam Wheel Cleaner and Tire Prep. That ate my sprayer. So, all right, let me see if I can find a new. I will use this time to talk about jimbosdetailing.com and how you can get quality sprayers on all your products. Visit jimbosdetailing.com and get some high quality products with some high quality sprayers. Back from the commercial break. Really want to reiterate that torture tests are for fun. I enjoy doing them, and they are like crash tests for products. So if you think about crash tests for cars, they do it not because they hope that you get in a car accident. They do it to see what happens if you get in a car accident and make sure everything is safe. And so it's a data thing. It's learning, right? And so the torture test is just that. It's just learning. It's just data. It's just for fun. But I will say, more times than not, the results that we get in a torture test end up being the results that people get in their quote unquote real world, which I don't think a real world, quote unquote real world test is actually as good as a torture test, because at least in the torture test, we're consistent with how we're testing it all the way through. Whereas a quote unquote real world test, you may be in Canada, you may be in New Zealand, you may be in Texas, you may be here, you may be there. And just because you let a panel sit out in the sun, and wash it once a week doesn't really, it doesn't mean that your car is getting the same, treatment. So I would actually argue that a torture test is a better way to test products, because the torture part of it is more consistent than, all these other inconsistencies that could happen with these quote unquote real world tests. For example, it's like, well, I applied it to the panel, I let it sit out, but now it rained last night. It's like, okay, well, now does that affect the curing process? Does it not? Are you going to reapply? It kind of leaves too many variables, where I think the torture test is just straight. It's the same thing every time. You know what to expect. So, and CanCoat seems like it's doing good. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, we gotta wash it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right, we gotta wash it. Maybe there's residue. I don't wanna talk too soon. We never looked at our high spot. Dang it. When I say the torture tests are consistent, it's consistent with the products that I use, but I am very inconsistent. Mainly when it comes to remembering stuff. Remember that last video when I was like, oh, okay, I applied it to the right side of the panel. Guess I didn't. Guess I applied it on the left side. Hey, that's what makes my channel fun. You never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes the truth, sometimes not. Just kidding. It's always the truth. Okay, so it looks like it took a tiny, tiny bit of a hit, but I want to touch on something that I don't know if I learned it from somewhere or picked it up from someone, or just from doing these tests, but it's something that I think it translates, but I'm not quite sure. And that is how much flooding we're getting underneath right where the hose is hitting. So like on a true ceramic coating, you won't really see any flooding underneath the stream of water, but watch, I think it's indicative of the product starting to fail. Again, just a hypothesis, I'm not 100% sure. So let's see if I can talk about it. So like right where this water is hitting, and I don't know if you could pick it up, but see how the panel looks like it's kind of flooding? It's not turning into beads right away. It kind of is like over here on the mist, but basically like right in here, it's really starting to flood. Is that translating on the camera? See, and then it's that. So it's sheeting water a lot, but you can kind of doctor the water a little bit. Like if you missed it, you can get better water beads, but I've just been thinking that little bit underneath the water, I've been watching products, and that little bit underneath the water, I think is the start of a product failing. So sometimes I look for that. So. Ever so slightly starting to slow down, but honestly, it's still doing really, really good. Let's go with a spray 9. And we haven't even wiped anything in yet, so we'll see. Hold your breath, Bryant. We'll see what the spray 9 does. And that's another, I don't know. Just another thing that I don't think gets talked enough about. And here's the thing, I don't think enough people care. I think people care, but not enough people care about what these chemicals and working around these chemicals do to you and just how bad some of them are for you. So spray 9, probably not the best chemical for you to be breathing in. So we'll let that dwell. So again, back to that like water flooding. I'm not sure that it's indicative of the product starting to fail, but again, just a little hypothesis that I have. And then what we'll do after this dwells for a little bit, we will hit it with the JIMBO's Pure Magic Cleaner, which is an acid-based cleaner that will actually remove iron contaminants. I did a short on my Instagram a long time ago, or a few months back. I did a short comparison, and I may even do a YouTube video about it, comparing an iron remover like the Meguiar's all-wheel cleaner to it. I like that, the Pure Magic Cleaner. It's really good on nasty rims, water spots, but it actually does remove iron contaminants and contaminants out of the paint, arguably more contaminants than just a straight iron remover. And I did a test on my Instagram, just on the stories, and compared it to like the Meguiar's all-wheel cleaner. And it was comparable in that test. I fact-checked myself with like a traditional clay bar and clayed it, and it was comparable to an iron remover. The benefit to the Pure Magic Cleaner is you can also clean nasty rims, you can remove water spots, stuff that iron removers don't really do. So, all right, spray 9. So it's still there, but it definitely took a hit, right? And so that's what we're looking at. What I'm glad to see is that the side that I didn't follow the instructions seems to be pretty comparable to the side I did follow the instructions. I do think you will have a better user experience if you do follow their directions and apply it just directly into your towel. And again, that'll help if we're talking about health, I guess. That will help from not having so much kind of out of that finger sprayer into the air if you're applying it to your towel, and you're gonna be able to walk around your car or get around a car very quickly. So the comments have been overall really positive for CanCoat. A lot of people saying they've gotten a lot of good use out of it, 18 months out of it, sometimes even longer. So the sentiment has been that CanCoat is a very popular product. But again, let's go back to the water flooding underneath. So now we're way back on the panel and it's still kind of flooding all the way up. Before we were a little bit further up. But the product is definitely still there. It's still sheeting water very good. It's still sheeting water, it's still there, but we have started to lose that hydrophobic properties. But let's blow it off. We'll use the JIMBOs real quick to see if that reinvigorates that water beading at all, and then we'll start wiping it in. So you can see why I talked about that water spray and the flooding of the panel maybe being an indication of it starting to fail. And you can see how the water's not really sticking to the panel, it's just not getting off as quickly as it was. So let's pick up the JIMBOs. This is an acid-based cleaner. It just does not contain any hydrofluoric acid, which is the bad stuff that you really don't want. But honestly, I've been a huge fan of acid for a really long time. Mainly hydrofluoric acid. What I set out to do with this is create an acid that didn't contain any hydrofluoric acid and also put a funny character on it, because ultimately I think the funniest thing is when your brand looks silly, but then it outperforms brands that try to be serious. So that's my goal with that. So we'll see if this brings back any of the water beading behavior. And then what we're gonna do is I'll probably hit it with maybe super clean and rub it in and see if that kills it or what it does. So it's, nope, didn't really bring back any of the water beading behavior. Creating a flood outside my shop, that's for sure. So still sheeting water. I'm not ready to say that it's dead, but it's definitely taken a hit. Let's blow it off. All right, we'll do super clean and we'll rub it in, see how that goes. So I think CanCoat did better in this torture test than it did 5 years ago or so. But I was hoping that it would be a little bit more stout. It wasn't as stout as I thought it'd be. I thought it would blow through this. But I was hoping, it's still good, it's still hanging on. It's just not as stout as I thought it would be. So we're gonna rub it in here. Though you may never rub super clean into your car, I think, in my opinion, one thing that's going to become popular is higher pH soaps. So a higher pH soap has touchless, which is a whole nother issue that I need to go over, whether it's touchless or touchless. Anyway, so I think it's important to know if your products can withstand higher pH. So you may be using a touchless or touchless soap, but there we go. Super clean does tend to leave quite a bit of residue, so I do want to make sure I clean that off. Again, using Pure Wash by Turtle Wax. I think it's on Amazon. I'll try to link it below. Rinse this off, see how it's doing. Well, we killed it. That's the goal. Panels reset. So there you go. CanCoat dead. Is it more stout than it used to be? I think so. I think a little bit more stout than it used to be, but it's still, at least in the torture test, in my infotainment of a torture test, it did better than some, not as good as others, right? And so it's right in the middle. When you factor in the price and when you factor in, the application is actually really easy. So I think that's got something going for it, but it's just not super, super durable. So if you're looking for a super durable product, CanCoat, I know people are gonna argue in the comments that I got 18 months, I got 24 months, blah, 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 blah. But as a standalone, single layer, and honestly, the application method was comparable, at least in the torture test. So again, I would follow the directions and apply it into the towel because that way it's not atomizing into the air, you're not sucking in whatever it's made out of. And two, it just applies a little bit easier. And as you can see, it's not even sheeting water quickly. So that's that. I call that product dead. So with that, that is the upgraded CanCoat Evo Pro, or whatever names they want to add on to the end of the just original name. Great packaging, simple to use, easy application, higher price, and not that durable. That's my final conclusion on that. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Obviously, I would love to hear your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, at least the positive ones. The negative ones get to me a little bit. But with that, hope you guys will subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.